Bulls and Bears, it is Wednesday, December 28th, 2022, back with another dose of economic reality. We've got a lot of news to cover in a kind of a short amount of time today. Let's talk about what's happening with Southwest Airlines. It's all over the news, all of the delays, cancellations, people spending sometimes days in airports. What is the deal with a company that gets a bailout? And I'm just going to read a headline here from a couple years ago. U.S. Airlines bailout helps Southwest post, U.S. airline bailout helps Southwest post $116 million profit. So here we have a company that took public bailout, and now they can't even keep all of their flights organized, and they're basically in chaos right now. So it started off, just from what I understand here, from what I read, it started off with a few weather-related cancellations, but then those cancellations and the rescheduling of flights and the rescheduling of staffing for those flights caused everything else to get thrown into chaos. And we didn't see this this bad with other airlines. But Southwest, yeah, so I feel really bad for these people camping out in airports, sometimes for days. And, that's a company, that has a bailout under its belt. And we have to ask ourselves, do these bailouts really reward companies that are not putting their money in the right place? So why don't they have the type of system? And I've also read that it's IT issues and software issues, more than just manual issues, right? Or not the right staff. But it takes staff to actually get the IT situation straightened out. So that's my take on it. And I noticed that this other headline here, crippled airline industry to get $25 billion bailout. Another headline here from 2021. So when the crisis hit, the health crisis, a lot of industries saw a lot of packages and a lot of money thrown at them to stay operational. And what a lot of the companies like to do, a lot of these big multinational companies, is they like to give out as many bonuses as possible. They like to pay the CEO as much as possible and have as little as possible put away for a rainy day or put away for a crisis or a failure of some sort. So, for example, instead of upgrading their computer systems or their software, they're going to hand out just more bonuses and bigger bonuses to their staff. That's the way I see it. And then when something happens, they know that they're just going to get a bailout anyway because they're considered essential, just like the too big to fail banks. Certain industries are considered essential, and they know that there's going to be a bailout there. So it's, what's the term? That is a moral hazard. So when someone's always going to be bailed out, so let's say someone doing a crime, if they knew they were always going to get bailed out and get let out of jail, they're just going to continue to do the crime, because what's the incentive, or what's the fear factor in doing the crime? There is none. So if you know you're not going to get in trouble, if you know you're not going to go out of business, then why prepare for a rainy day? And that's just my take on the Southwest Airlines situation. Please let me know what you think down in comments. Now on another topic here, let's talk about shortages and inflation. I was at a store today called Sprouts. It's a kind of a health food store and kind of a farmer's market centric type of place. Anyways, they were out of the lower cost eggs, and basically about half of their eggs were wiped out. The only remaining eggs were the really expensive kind, the free range eggs. But it's interesting that we have a pretty big egg processing plant here in the eastern San Diego County out in Lakeside, actually, and I've actually been there. But yet we still have a lot of empty shelves when it comes to eggs. I even saw some empty shelves at Walmart a few days ago. A lot of the eggs were wiped out there. I think I even filmed a couple times, and I'm sure most of you have probably noticed some empty shelves when it comes to eggs. So we had that huge outbreak of the bird flu, and that added on top of the problems that many farmers are having, including egg farmers. And that's going to be a segue here into this next news item here. Farmers predict more food shortages and higher prices in 2023. Now, some of you, I've seen you comment, oh, the Fed says inflation's going to come down. Things are going to get better. I even saw the markets react positively to the Fed saying that inflation's coming down. Remember the kind of words that they use. Inflation coming down doesn't mean prices are going to get lower. It means that prices are going to go up more, just not as fast, right? So inflation is rising prices. It's getting bigger. So when someone says inflation is going to drop, it doesn't mean prices are going to drop. It just means that the rate of inflation is going to be less than what it was. So maybe instead of 7%, which is the official number, we know that's completely wrong. It's more double, probably even more than double, probably 18, 20% if you look at the cost of living. Instead of things going up 20% next year, maybe they'll only go up 18%. But yet the markets will eat that up. They'll say, wow, inflation came down. It's positive. Now, when it comes to the markets, though, remember we have a lot of short covering, a lot of big trading companies, hedge funds, trading houses, including mega banks out there buying up stocks to push a lot of the people that were short out. And also they were short covering, so that caused a big surge. I think the next leg down in the stock market is going to be very, very drastic here. We'll see if I'm right. And it's interesting, the weakness that we've seen over the past couple of weeks here in the stock market. It's interesting when someone like myself gets it right, but yet people out there that have been predicting markets for decades and been watching the markets for decades that I see, here on YouTube get it wrong. It makes you wonder if they're really the market experts that they say that they are. Farmer says higher prices, and that should be no surprise to anyone here. Nothing's being done to fix any of these problems here. Some families going into debt to visit Walt Disney World. That's another headline. It's a recent headline. And it's interesting because a few days ago, I talked about some of the emails that I got. I got a real negative email from somebody named Richard, of all names, Richard. And he said how wrong I was, that I'm giving out disinfo, that I should be banned. But yeah, a lot of the news that I give you, not all of it, but a lot of it's just mainstream news, NBC, ABC, CBS. And so if I'm giving out disinfo and need to be banned, then you have to ban a lot of these other a lot of these other news agencies. So are you going to ban ABC, NBC, CBS, and all these other ones? Because that's where I get a lot of my news. This farmer that was interviewed, this is Fox, mainstream, right? Of course, I give you my analysis and I tell you how wrong some of these mainstream news outlets are. So maybe that angry email that I got was somebody that worked for one of those media companies, and maybe they're afraid of losing their job, because we see a lot of people leaving the mainstream sort of news, what we call the legacy media, coming on over just to look at just real people, not someone that's paid, not someone that's handed out talking points, but someone that's just giving you their take on the economy from a middle class perspective. And if you look at the salaries of a lot of these news people, they're just put out there to parrot the talking points, and some of them make a lot of money just reading off of the teleprompter, reading what they're told to read. So it's pretty interesting. Now back to the markets here, we're seeing, or I should say that we saw, negative across the board in all the major indexes, and I think we're going to see the next leg down. So we're going to keep an eye on it. We're going to let you know if I'm right. I think I'm going to be right once again here. With only a few days left here in 2022, I'd like to see your predictions. Here we are with these end of the year predictions. And at the end of the year, there's a lot of, there's actually two main things that happen at the end of every year. We see the predictions for 2023. Then we look back at the highlights from 2022. I skip right over the highlights because I already know what happened. And so do you. But people like to look over the highlights. They like to look at, the year's top 10 songs of the year. Actually, I like that one because sometimes I'll hear a song, then I'll forget about it, then I'll go back and read the list. Oh, I forgot about that song. Let me put that in my MP3 player. But yeah, your predictions for 2023. I predict higher cost of living, a record increase in bankruptcies. I think we're going to see that in 2023. A record increase in foreclosures. Now remember, they could pass a law saying no one can get foreclosed, right? So there's always that. A record increase in car repossessions. Again, they could pass a law saying no one's allowed to get their car repossessed. Look what happened in 2020. And everything's on the table right now with the possibility of what they can do. They could swoop in and just change the rules at the last moment, at the last minute. Student loan forgiveness. Look at that. Who would have thought that student loans would not have to be repaid now for 2 years and counting? Right? So who knows what they're going to pull out of the hat to stop this thing from collapsing. But we know consumers, all-time high debt levels, going further into debt like we've never seen before with the rising rate environment. And not a good combination, folks. So I hope everyone here is doing well. Again, your predictions for 2023 down in comments. I predict higher prices and record increases in all of those areas. But the intervention could make me wrong. But it's either intervention and rescues or those things actually happening. So please let me know what you think. Thanks for everybody for being here. Bye for now. Big love and keep stacking peace.